What do you do with your leftover turkey and gammon? I make mine into a really delicious pie. I use leeks in the pie, and I've got leeks here. I'm just going to chop sort of top green bit. Actually, part of that's all right too. So chop these, and then I actually use the Maggi mix to slice them. It saves masses of time. You can slice them by hand, it's not a problem. I always used to. Oh, I've got a leek flying around the place. But I just think it's a bit quicker. So I'll just chop those into chunks to pop in. There we are. So, open that up. So I've whizzed up all the leeks in my Maggi mix, so they are all finely sliced now. I hate the turkey and gammon going to waste, and I think it's really lovely to make a really comforting, delicious pie. And when you've been outside for a cold walk, it's really yummy to come in and enjoy. So the first thing I do once I have sliced these up, move that out the way, is I get my large pan and I put quite a lot of butter into it, and I'm going to cook. Probably going to put about that much. It's quite a lot, actually, maybe even slightly more, because I've got quite a lot of leeks there that need cooking. So I'm going to pop my butter onto a low heat to melt, and then I'll cook the leeks once that has melted. So I shall just leave that there for a mo. So my butter has all melted, and I'm now going to tip my leeks into there. She's got quite a lot of leek. I might even have enough. We've got quite a lot of leftovers to make a couple of pies and put one into the freezer. So there we are. Mix all in there. Mix them around in the butter. And then I salt them a little bit. The gammon is quite salty already, so I don't put too much salt, but a couple of good pinches of sea salt in there. Mix those in. I might need to pop it onto the slightly hotter side of the yoghurt. Just pop that onto there for a minute or two. And I'll let these soften. I'll probably cook them for about 3 or 4 minutes, just until they're beginning to soften, and then I shall add some flour in. So I shall just leave those there at the moment. So my leeks been cooking really nicely there. I'm just going to bring it over onto this side now, and I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper. Mix that in. Now those, as you can see, have really softened nicely, and I'm going to add some plain flour. So I shall just sprinkle that over. Another spoonful. I might add a little bit more in a minute. I shall just give it a mix and see whether it needs some more. So the flour thickens the sauce. So my flour has been cooking for just over a minute now, and I shall now start adding some liquid. So this is actually gravy left over, turkey gravy, which I never throw away. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that. It makes, it really enhances the flavour. And you can actually freeze gravies as well. So that bit that I haven't used, I will pop into the freezer and use when I'm cooking something else, when I need some good stock. I'll just mix that in. And I've also kept the water that I cooked the gammon in, and that has been in the fridge waiting for me to use for this. Slowly add that. You could use a stock cube, but I've I've kept it, and it's really full of flavour. So it's perfect for this. Put some milk in now. Just slowly, gradually add until you get the right consistency that you want. I don't know if you can see, Penny's actually down here. She's snoring a little bit. So sweet. It really is her favourite spot, particularly when the weather's so cold. And then I'm going to increase the heat a little bit, put it onto the hotter ring, and it will thicken with the heat. So you may find that you need to add a little bit more liquid, or you might feel that you've got enough in there. So I shall just leave that for a moment, just to thicken up. So this has been slowly cooking away here, and I'm really happy now with this consistency. So I'm going to take it off the heat and start making it into the pie. Right, here goes. I've got my turkey here, I've got my gammon there, and I'm going to start spooning it into my dish. Oh, must tell you, I always put an upturned egg cup in the centre of my dish, and it holds pastry, so the pastry doesn't become really soggy. And I also then, on the top of the pastry, cut a little hole, but I'll show you that bit in a minute. But always have an egg cup, or a pie funnel, or whatever you like to use. I just use an egg cup. Just spoon turkey around there. I've got a mixture of darker and lighter meat. I'm hoping I've got enough leftovers to make a couple of pies and pop one in the freezer and enjoy one later on today. And then I shall ladle this leek sauce around. So I've got my filling in the dish there, and I'm going to roll up the pastry. So I first flour the work surface. It's always better to have more flour than get the pastry stuck, so I spread that out. I use puff pastry, and I cheat and I buy it ready-made. Puff is very, very difficult to make, so I do cheat. It also freezes really well, so it's quite useful to have a block in the freezer. Whether you want to make a pie or sausage rolls or cheese straws or something like that. The children love working with puff pastry. So I shall then flour up my rolling pin and start rolling it out. Now you don't have to put leeks in your pie. You can use any veg you want. If you've got, carrots, leftover sprouts, you can use those. It doesn't matter. I just happen to have a lot of leeks, so I put those in my pie. And using leeks, you don't need to use onions either, so it works quite well. You can just whiz those up, either chop them by hand or whiz them in the magic mix. So I've rolled my pastry out, and it's, as you can see, bigger than the size of the dish, which you want because you want it to flop over the edges, and then you can trim the edges off neatly. So you must make sure that it is big enough, and just lift it up carefully and place it over your dish like that. And then I always push it in, so you make sure that it's sitting on the top of the filling, because the pastry will shrink a little bit, so you don't want it to, you want it to be generous around the dish. If you pull it taut, you will end up with the pastry shrinking and it will come away from the sides of the dish, and you don't want that to happen. So give it a good push in. I then cut a hole, well, across, across the top of my upturned egg cup like that. And then I start trimming. I use a sharp knife and I just trim off the excess. You can always trim more, so don't go too close to the edge of the dish, because in a minute I'll show you how I pinch the pastry to seal it to the dish, and also it makes a pretty edge too. And then you can actually use, I keep those scraps and the children make them into things, bake them. So now I'm just going to pinch the pastry. I'll show you from this side. So just literally pinch it to the dish with my fingers and thumbs. There, that is my pastry done. I'm now going to crack an egg into a bowl, and I'm going to whisk it with a fork. And then I'm going to brush this whisked egg over the top with a pastry brush, and it gives it a really lovely golden crispy finish when you bake it. Whiz that up, and I've got my pastry brush. It gives it a really lovely golden finish. You can use milk, but I tend for meat pies to use a whisked egg. You can also use the leftover bits of pastry to make pretty leaves or shapes, and you can decorate the top of your pie, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to crack on with this and get it in the oven, and look forward to enjoying it. It is important to make that hole in the middle of your pastry. It lets the steam out when the pie is cooking, and you don't want steam building up under the pastry, so always make that cross. You may need to go round and pinch again if you feel it's coming away from the sides at all after you've done this and before you pop it in the oven. So I've now popped the egg wash all over the top of the pie, and I'm going to pop it into the top oven of the Olga for about 40 minutes. You do need to keep a close eye on the pastry, and you might need to put tin foil on over the top halfway through cooking and then take it off for the last few minutes. It just depends how hot your oven is. So in she goes.